Disney keeps trying to solve Star Wars with a new release date, a new trailer, a new cameo, a new Grogu close-up, and another round of please clap. But the problem was never that people forgot Star Wars existed. The problem is they remembered. They remembered the sequel trilogy Whiplash. They remembered Solo. They remembered the Disney Plus homework era. They remembered every announced movie that disappeared into the same warehouse where Disney keeps the Willow residual statements. And now, after 7 years away from theaters, Disney finally brought Star Wars back with the safest bet they had left. Not Rey, not the Acolyte, not some brand new character nobody asked for. Grogu, Baby Yoda, the merchandising goblin, the plushie with force powers, the one character Disney could put on a lunchbox, a billboard, a Fortnite skin, and probably a treasury bond. And even then, the conversation wasn't, Star Wars is back. The conversation was, so how low is the ceiling now? And that's not a marketing problem. That's not a release date problem. That's not a, we just need one more nostalgic cameo problem. That's a trust problem. And Disney keeps standing over the crime scene, pointing at Kathleen Kennedy, pointing at Rian Johnson, pointing at the sequels, pointing at the fans, pointing at YouTube, pointing at literally anyone except the body in the corner labeled audience trust. So today we're asking the question everyone keeps asking wrong. Who killed Star Wars? And why does Disney keep blaming the wrong corpse? Welcome back to The Critical Nerd, where we keep our expectations low and our receipts high. And if you're new here, this is where we look at Hollywood's favorite magic trick, taking billion-dollar brands, setting them on fire, and then acting confused when the audience notices smoke. And if you're returning, congratulations, you already know where the bodies are buried. Today is not going to be another Kathleen Kennedy killed Star Wars video. That video exists. In fact, a lot of them exist. Some of them are good. Some of them are basically a man yelling into a webcam like he just found out Disney replaced oxygen with pronouns. That's not this video. Because blaming one person is easy. Blaming one movie is easy. Blaming one trilogy is easy. But the real problem with Disney Star Wars is bigger and more useful than that. Disney did not just make some bad Star Wars. Disney trained the audience to stop trusting Star Wars. And once that happens, better marketing does not fix it. A better trailer doesn't fix it. A convention stage full of executives saying, "We hear the fans," does not fix it. And no, putting Grogu in the center of the frame with those big sad eyes like he just watched the Solo second weekend drop does not fix it either. So let's talk about the wrong diagnosis. Here's what most Star Wars post-mortems get wrong. They treat this as a product problem. Bad scripts, bad planning, bad directors, bad executives, bad release strategy, bad CGI, bad fan service, not enough fan service, too much fan service, somehow Palpatine returned, and somehow the discourse never left. And yeah, all that matters. Bad product matters. You cannot serve the audience a mystery box of subversion and a corporate apology trilogy and then act shocked when the people stop ordering from the menu. But bad product is not the full disease. Bad product is the symptom. The disease is trust erosion, and that distinction matters because a product problem has a relatively simple cure. Make better product. A trust problem has a much harder cure. You have to rebuild the audience's willingness to believe you. That is not done with one trailer. It's not done with one cameo. It's not done with one new era Lucasfilm press release. It is done slowly, painfully, consistently over time. Which is a problem for Disney because Disney does not like slow. Disney likes slates. Disney likes announcements. Disney likes Investor Day graphics with 14 logos on them, 6 of which will never exist, 3 of which will quietly become streaming shows, and 1 of which Taika Waititi is apparently still working on. In the same way, I'm working on becoming Batman. Disney has spent years treating Star Wars like the audience just needed to be reminded of the brand, reminded of the characters, reminded of the iconography, reminded that Grogu is cute. The problem is the audience did not forget. They remember too much. And in Disney's case, they have a marketing problem versus a trust problem. And a marketing problem looks like this. You have a good product, but not enough people know it exists. Low awareness, bad positioning, wrong audience. Fix that, and the product can do the rest. A trust problem looks completely different. A trust problem is when everyone knows the product exists, and they still do not believe it will be worth their time. And that's where Star Wars is. Nobody needs Disney to explain what Star Wars is. Nobody needs a reminder that lightsabers exist. Nobody needs a focus group trailer line about hope, destiny, legacy, family, or whatever word cloud currently lives on the Lucasfilm whiteboard. Every Star Wars trailer trends. Every casting rumor spreads. Every announcement gets dissected like the Zapruder film, but with more toy sales. Awareness is not broken. Trust is broken. And yet Disney keeps solving for awareness. Bigger trailers, more Grogu, more nostalgia, more convention applause, more this one is for the fans, more we're going to back what people love. Which is corporate speak for, we noticed the last thing didn't work, so here's the thing you liked before. Please respond emotionally and preferably purchase a popcorn bucket. But the issue is not that people do not know Star Wars is coming. The issue is that when Star Wars comes, a lot of people now wait. They wait for reviews. They wait for word of mouth. They wait for YouTubers. They wait for someone they trust more than Lucasfilm to tell them whether Lucasfilm can be trusted this time. That is the corpse. Not awareness, trust. And Disney keeps walking past it with a defibrillator labeled marketing campaign. So walk this timeline with me. Not the timeline of everything that went wrong, the timeline of Disney prescribing the wrong medicine. Let's go back to 2018, Solo, the first major warning sign. A Star Wars movie came out in theaters, and for the first time in the Disney era, the audience collectively shrugged. Disney's diagnosis? Bad release date. Too close to The Last Jedi. Production drama. Poor marketing window. All that true, but also incomplete. Because Solo did something more dangerous than lose money. It taught the audience that a Star Wars movie could be optional. That sentence should have set off every alarm in Burbank. Because Star Wars was never supposed to be optional. It was supposed to be an event. Then in 2019 came The Rise of Skywalker. Disney's diagnosis? The audience rejected The Last Jedi, so the prescription was obvious. Walk it back. Bring back Palpatine. Bring back familiar imagery. Bring back legacy language. Bring back everything except a coherent plan. And yes, it made $1 billion. Congratulations. You landed the plane after removing one wing, setting the cabin on fire, and telling the passengers the smoke was actually nostalgia. But look at the direction of travel. The Force Awakens was a cultural earthquake. The Rise of Skywalker was a corporate emergency landing. That is not the same thing. Then Disney paused theatrical Star Wars, and the diagnosis changed again. Maybe theatrical was the problem. Maybe the audience needed breathing room. Maybe Star Wars would work better on streaming. So Disney Plus became the new treatment plan. And at first it looked brilliant. The Mandalorian Season 1 worked. Not because it was a content strategy, because it felt like someone actually loved making it. Simple story, clear tone, new character, Western structure, practical feel. A little green puppet committing toy sale felonies in every episode. It worked. So naturally, Disney looked at that success and said, what if we turned this into homework? Then came the Book of Boba Fett, then Obi-Wan Kenobi, then Ahsoka, then the Acolyte Discourse, then Skeleton Crew, then more timeline dependencies, more lore dependencies, more animated prerequisites, more, you need to have watched this other thing to understand why this hallway is emotionally significant. Star Wars went from a long time ago in a galaxy far away to please complete these 47 hours of prerequisite streaming material before enjoying your popcorn. That is not world building. That is onboarding. And I did not subscribe to Disney Plus to be assigned homework by a man in a cowboy hat. Now we arrive at the cleanest test case Disney could have asked for. The Mandalorian and Grogu. This was not a risky Star Wars bet. This was the safe one. First theatrical Star Wars movie in 7 years, Memorial Day weekend, Grogu, Pedro Pascal Association, Mandalorian branding, a lower reported budget than the disaster class Solo situation. Built-in streaming audience, built-in merch audience, built-in Star Wars is back in theaters narrative. Every box checked, and what happened? It opened fine, not catastrophic, not apocalyptic, not buried in the desert next to John Carter, but it also opened as the smallest Disney-era Star Wars theatrical launch. And there's the receipt. And the reason that matters is not because the movie is guaranteed to fail. It may not. I mean, people love it. Financially, though, With a lower production budget, strong audience score, and Grogu merchandise doing what Grogu merchandise does, draining the wallets like a tiny green IRS agent, Disney may end up perfectly happy with the total ecosystem. But that's not the point. The point is that Disney brought out the safest Star Wars theatrical product they had left, and the ceiling was lower than Star Wars used to be. That is a trust receipt. Because if Grogu cannot instantly restore the old event status, then the problem is not that Disney picked the wrong character. The problem is that the brand has trained people not to rush back blindly. And once the audience learns caution, you cannot market them back into innocence. You have to earn it. And this is where Andor matters, because Andor is the receipt that breaks the lazy version of this argument. The lazy argument is, just make good Star Wars and everything will be fine. Okay, Disney did. It's called Andor. And for once, almost every side of the Star Wars discourse agreed. Critics loved it. A lot of serious fans loved it. Even people who are allergic to modern Lucasfilm said, fine, this one's actually good. It treated the audience like adults. It had political tension, moral complexity, great dialogue, actual characters, no mystery box, no member berries every 6 minutes, no scene where a legacy character walks into the frame so the internet can clap like a seal with a Disney Plus login. By creative standards, Andor is probably the best live-action Star Wars Disney has made, and yet the audience did not rush to it like they should have. Its strength was not hype. Its strength was word of mouth. It had to convince people over time, and that is the important distinction. A healthy brand launches a great product, and the audience shows up immediately. A damaged brand launches a great product, and the audience says, I'll wait and see. That is what trust collapse looks like. Not everyone hates the brand. Not everyone boycotts the brand. Not everyone swears it off forever. They just stop giving the benefit of the doubt. And that's worse. Because hatred still watches trailers. Hatred still rage clicks. Hatred still shows up opening weekend, sometimes just to complain correctly. Indifference waits. Burned customers wait. And Star Wars has created a lot of burned customers. That is why Andor is so important. It proves that even when Disney makes something excellent, the audience relationship is damaged enough that excellence alone does not instantly repair the floor. It can help. It can start the repair, but it cannot erase a decade of brand exhaustion by itself. So this begs the question, who killed Star Wars? Here's the honest answer. The people who kept treating a trust problem like a marketing problem. Not one person, not one movie, not one director. It was a system that kept choosing the appearance of repair over the repair itself. Announce the slate, change the logo, bring back the legacy name, apologize without apologizing, retcon without admitting you're retconning, flood streaming, pause theatrical, restart theatrical, blame fatigue, blame timing, blame fans, blame expectations, blame everything except the obvious. The audience stopped trusting the steward of the brand. That is the real corpse. And the tragedy is that Star Wars is not some dead IP nobody wants anymore. People want to love Star Wars. That's why they still argue about it. That's why every announcement still trends. That's why people still get mad. You do not get this level of discourse from a dead brand. Nobody is screaming for 8 years about the moral collapse of Marmaduke. People are angry because they cared. A lot of them still care. But caring is not the same as trusting. That is the part Disney keeps missing. You can still care about a franchise and refuse to give it your opening weekend. You can still love Star Wars and not trust Lucasfilm. You can still have a Darth Vader helmet on your shelf and look at the next Disney announcement like it is a suspicious charge on your credit card. And quite frankly, that's where we are. Now, Lucasfilm has changed leadership. Kathleen Kennedy is no longer running the studio day to day. Dave Filoni and Lynwen Brennan are now leading that next era. And look, I'm not going to pretend that means nothing because it matters. Filoni understands Star Wars in a way that a lot of Disney-era leadership clearly did not. He was shaped by George Lucas. He knows the animated universe. He understands myth, continuity, character arcs, and the kind of fan investment that cannot be created in a quarterly earnings call. There is a version of the future where Filoni helps rebuild this thing. But here's the problem he inherits. Trust is destroyed faster than it's rebuilt. You can burn it down in one trilogy. You can rebuild it one project at a time, quietly, consistently, without making every new thing carry the burden of saving the franchise. That is the part Disney has struggled with for years. They do not let things breathe. They turn every success into a content pipeline. They turn every character into a strategy. They turn every goodwill moment into a franchise roadmap. And then they wonder why the audience feels marketed instead of invited back. If Filoni's going to fix Star Wars, the answer's not more announcements. It's not, here are 12 projects, and it's not, here's the new phase. Wrong franchise, wrong disease. The answer is slower, better, cleaner, fewer projects, stronger stories, actual endings, actual plans, less homework, less damage control, less we heard you, more proof. Because after everything Disney has done with Star Wars, the audience does not need another promise. They need evidence. So, who killed Star Wars? Well, the better question is, what kept dying every time Disney tried to revive it? Because Disney kept reviving the marketing, the trailer, the cameo, the convention applause, the Grogu close-up, the nostalgia button. This is the one fans have been waiting for, press tour. But the actual patient, the relationship between Star Wars and the people who built part of their lives around loving it, kept bleeding out in the corner. That is the wrong corpse. And until Disney stops performing CPR on awareness and starts rebuilding trust, none of this is going to stick. Not the new leadership, not the new slate, not the next movie, not the next trailer, not the next cameo, not even Grogu staring into the camera like he just found out The Rise of Skywalker had no plan. Star Wars is not dead because people forgot it. It is wounded because people remember. They remember what it meant. They remember what it became. And they remember every time Disney told them the next thing would fix it. So no, Disney does not have a Star Wars awareness problem. They have a trust problem. And every new announcement that ignores that is just another very expensive way of saying, please clap. Keep your expectations low and your receipts high. I'm the Critical Nerd, and I am out.